So you should totally hit that like button and subscribe to Couch in the Rube on YouTube. Seriously though, if you don't, Santa's literally gonna skip my house this year. And Graham Couch? Yeah, he's threatening to catnap my precious kitty. So come on, help a girl out.
What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, our Wednesday show, presented by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar. If you are looking for an evening out this holiday season, I'm telling you, Front 43 and Cask & Company, it's outstanding. The vibes are great. You want to watch a game, you want a date night. I've never steered anyone wrong there, and it is my top recommendation when people ask me, where should I take somebody? And if you're going to an event near Michigan State, if you're going to next Tuesday's Toledo men's basketball game on campus, go to Front 43 and Cask & Company first. You will absolutely love it. You'll love the modern Asian American menu. I think you will also love the drink selections. You can sit on either side. Front 43, which is more pub side, or Cask & Company, more restaurant, but you still got, if you want to watch a game, it's still all there for you. Go to caskandcompany.com to make a reservation today. Jason, how you doing, brother?
It's the American way. Except America has gotten soft.
Absolutely. I mean, fucking everybody masturbates.
I'm not talking about Michigan.
What's up, buddy?
How you doing?
You know ball, right? I mean, you got to tell me, is this Michigan team scary?
They're really
right
good.
Off the top. Let's get into it because I got Michigan fan Jordan, already insufferable in December, texted me about, May's going to win 2 titles and before Izzo gets his second natty. It's just like, what is going on? They're beating every team by 40. I'm sorry. I'm panicking in December here. This is not looking good here. You can't just beat every team by 40.
Right. No, there's no question they look good. They're the number 1 team in Ken Pom, and they're the number 1 rated defense in Ken Pom, number 11 offense. I mean, they're really good in a lot of key areas.
Shit.
So I will say this about their schedule. They have not played a schedule yet where they've really, really been tested, but they've beaten teams.
Right, but you're winning by 40. I don't think it matters at that point.
They are built to win by margin, and that's what's impressive, right? I mean, the
tell me about your schedule all you want, but if you're beating that schedule by 40 apiece.
And the Gonzaga game's the one that stands out. I mean, Rutgers is maybe the worst team in the Big Ten.
And Villanova's not the same Villanova.
Villanova's not that good. Auburn is in the top 30 Ken Pom team right now, so that was another win by 30. Jeez. Gonzaga by 40. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing them get into the Big Ten and be sort of the grind of conference play. The thing that's weird, though, is Dusty May's pretty new to the Big Ten. And a lot of his team is completely new to the Big Ten. So all the ideas that, you get into conference play and people just know you so well that you got to schedule in 3-4 losses, right? Some of that doesn't apply as much. And
they're deep.
Yeah, they're really.
What the hell?
They're really deep. They won't be tested to me. You look at their schedule and home, away, and one thing that does hurt them a little bit is they don't get the greatest home court advantage that some other teams do. And people follow Michigan basketball.
What are you talking about? Michigan fans are big into basketball now. Oh, my God. The crowds are going to be crazy. Chrysler, right?
Yeah.
No?
What if there's a Michigan football headline 30 minutes before a game? They're not going to go.
Sharon Moore fired.
Boom.
Celebration outside Chrysler. Everybody forgets about basketball.
They're not going to go, right.
Yeah.
So the first times they're really tested, I'm looking forward to seeing them on that Washington-Oregon road trip where you go out west. And, they're better than both those teams. Neither one of those teams is great. Home games, Indiana, Ohio State. Their first tough road game to me, really tough road game, is Michigan State on January 30th. They might get all the way there. That could be an undefeated team. The question is, do they have the discipline?
Be on fire.
What an atmosphere.
Oh, might have to go. How much are tickets? I need tickets here.
It's funny because somebody asked me at one point if I was going to go to the Penn State-Michigan State hockey game that's the next day outside at Penn State, in the football stadium, right, in State College, which is a really cool event. But it's a Friday night Michigan State basketball game at Breslin. no way I'm getting to State
Absolutely
College
not.
the next day. I'm sorry that they should reschedule that game. It's just not. It's I'm just not for my sake or anybody, but I'm just saying that's not a travel.
You can't do both.
No.
Oh
No, you can't get to State College in under 16 hours.
Oh,
period. And you got to take like an Amish buggy half the way. They don't have any direct flights anymore. It's the worst. It's the State College. I mean,
it's the worst part of Uber, the Amish buggy part.
If I were recruiting against Penn State, if I'm Pat Fitzgerald, new coach, and I've got to make sure Penn State doesn't, Matt Campbell, new coach, doesn't come into Detroit. They don't come into Michigan. They don't take any kids that I want. When I'm talking to parents, I'd be like, see how long it would take you. Why don't you do a little search here to see how long it would take you to actually get to see your child play in State College. They could live in Pittsburgh.
You're like, sir, get out of our living room. How much money are you offering?
You can live in Pittsburgh and it's 7 hours somehow. I mean, it's the worst. It's the worst place to get to on earth. So anyway, I think Michigan's really good. I think it's going to be
because we were trying to decorate the house last night unsuccessfully, and I didn't see the Michigan game, so I only got Michigan fan Jordan's texts and the anti-Tom Izzo sentiment that he loves to do, and when he's got, it's going to be ammunition to use it with this basketball team, rightfully so. I mean, they're unbelievable.
It's going to be interesting, and the Dusty May Izzo dynamic. I'm curious to watch that. Like the whole thing. It's going to be a fun basketball season. But
because they don't like each other.
I didn't say that.
Let's start it. Let's do it. Let's start it now.
But I can see why there's angst already. I can see. I mean, when you see a team that just looks like as good as anything you've seen since year 2 Fab 5, it's like
I'm not talking about.
And maybe better than that. It's pretty incredible. We have. I think it's going to be a good show today. We've got Nicole Auerbach from NBC Sports is going to join us here in a second. We're going to talk college football playoff. Little Pat Fitzgerald. She covered him when she was at the Big Ten Network.
Oh, that's right.
And then we're going to talk a little later about the Tigers and some comments, some frustrating thoughts, and some Pistons.
Scott Harris and AJ.
Concerns there. And,
how is it possible? Tigers, Lions, right? 2 teams I love. Won't make a move. Refuse. I want them to make a move. The Pistons, all this Anthony Davis talk. I don't want the Pistons to make a move. I want us to stick with this core guys. Like, I need Scott Harris to be the GM of the Pistons here. It's frustrating.
It's insanely frustrating. We're going to get into that a little bit as well. We may pick some games later. We may have Harry with us. We don't really know. Harry lives out west. And this is a little early for Harry, so we're hoping we get Harry.
Is that what we're saying?
That's what we're
saying. Harry
saying.
smokes more weed than I do. We could put it on that too.
Whatever it is.
He lives out west, and he has more MGs than I do most nights. So
we'll get into those conversations in a little bit. You want to get Nicole on, and we'll start to talk some college football playoff and Pat Fitzgerald here as well. A reminder why he's doing that. Front 43 in Cask & Company has a new private room, and I know a couple of listeners have checked it out already and gone over there. Really cool thing. So if you want to host an event, Front 43 in Cask & Company is here for you. Call, just ask for the private room that you want to book that. You go 517-580-3720. Option 2 gets you the host stand, and from there they'll talk you through it, or they'll call you back, whatever it is, to get you booked on that private room at Front 43 in Cask & Company. You get all the menu options, the drinks, everything catered right to you and your group right there at Front 43 in Cask & Company. Also, just a great place for a meal out. You're getting stressed this holiday season, Front 43 Cask & Company. You will absolutely love it. We are joined now by my friend Nicole Auerbach from NBC Sports. She's the lead college football insider there. Does some hoops as well. And, I've known her for a long time, dating back to The Athletic, USA Today. Pretty much if there's a major national publication, she has been there. Nicole, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Still, everyone's still arguing since Selection Sunday, so ready to fight off arguments or make new ones. But other than that, great. Let's
do that. Yeah, I mean it's a dangerous time to open the Twitter machine because you never know what you get dragged into. That happens to me a lot. It's not my strength in life is avoiding arguments I don't need to be in. All right, well let's start there. You wrote a really good column on this at NBCSports.com on how badly the committee screwed this up, and obviously they flipped Notre Dame and Miami. There were no new data points with the way they viewed Alabama early on, and give me your blanket picture where they screwed up worse.
Well, so I think there are two things that I keep fixating on. And one, there was obviously a ton of attention on the flip between, Notre Dame, Miami. And the issue there was Notre Dame had been ahead of Miami the entire time for the previous 5 weeks. So you're pulling the rug out from under them the final 11th hour to flip the order based on a game that happened 3 months ago that we have been arguing about, asking the committee chair about this whole time. And you get the most nonsensical reason for that, like the head-to-head result only came into play because the two teams were like literally back-to-back in the rankings, but it couldn't possibly have come into play if there was a team in between them. Like, that's insane thinking, especially when they control the rankings and can decide if there's a buffer or not. So that was infuriating on its own, and I completely understand why Notre Dame felt like they were completely misled because them and Miami, neither of them played this weekend, and they were ahead of them for 5 weeks. The other thing that really frustrated me was the inconsistent way that the committee cared about championship games. We had all been wondering, if there would be an impact. And, I think going into last year with SMU, they were at 8. They lost by 3 points in the ACC championship game. They dropped 2 spots to 10 and stayed in the bracket. But clearly, the committee in the last few years has penalized teams for losing those games. There's not no stakes entirely. You can't only be helped if you win. There's something if you lose, especially if you lose a certain way. And so BYU got blown out in the Big 12 championship game. They were penalized. They fell in the rankings. Alabama was not. They also got blown out, almost the exact same margin as BYU, and they didn't even drop 1 spot. So that, I think, was really frustrating because, again, in the history of these last couple of years, the committee has been dropping teams who lose in that game, and it was a blowout loss, which, for years we've heard from the committee, it matters, how you play, how you perform, how you win, how you lose. And even 2 years ago when Florida State was undefeated as the ACC champion and got left out, the argument was that Alabama was playing a lot better than them, and that's why they got in. It's the best teams now. Alabama hasn't played well in over a month. So anyway, they were just there was just a lot of inconsistent applications, not even just compared to 2 years ago or last year, literally within their own set of rankings. And so I just feel like it's really frustrating to then have to imagine getting to next November and pretending to take all of this seriously again.
Yeah, so where does this all go? I mean, the weekly updates are part of the issue because it leads to the inconsistency. You get away with it even if your reasoning's poor, if you don't update people week by week where they can see your work, so to speak. Does the playoff just get expanded to the point that, nobody gets left out that anybody cares about? Does the committee go away to some degree? It just seems like there needs to be clear criteria. On the flip side, when you've got a lot of bloated leagues and different schedules, that's almost an impossible thing to do as well. Where do you think this goes?
Yeah, I mean, all of that makes it really difficult to predict. And I do think if you went to 16 or whatever, we would just be having the same argument, but it would be about Utah and whoever, right? It doesn't necessarily solve the problems with the process. But there are a couple things that I could see changing that would, I think, help. One, I think, is getting rid of the weekly rankings. Because like you said, you get boxed into, the order of teams, but also, the reason that they're giving, which changes. For 2 weeks, they cared so much that Alabama had lost to Florida State, and then it went away, and they were so impressed by a win over 5-7 Auburn for some reason, right? And then, again, Notre Dame, if we didn't have weekly rankings and we just got this final set of rankings and we saw Miami ahead of Notre Dame, we would all be like, okay, cool, that makes sense, they played. We would not have had this type of reaction because it was for 5 weeks telling us that Notre Dame was ahead of Miami and that, there was a good margin most of those weeks. So that would get rid of a lot of that because I think it really boxes them in, especially the rankings that come out the week of the championship games where, only some of those teams are going to play and some aren't, and they just get themselves in a really bad position. The other thing I think that can change is the tiebreakers for these bloated leagues because, to your point, everyone's playing different schedules. 2 years ago, we have all this happen at once, right? The playoff expands and you have these 16, 17, 18-team leagues, and they're I don't know what to do with tiebreakers because they all got rid of divisions. So some of them are like, all right, we'll do this calculation and this win percentage of opponents and whatever. Everyone's just guessing. And it's A, very complicated and confusing, but B, you saw what happened with the ACC. Like, I think that the first tiebreaker for all of these leagues should be head-to-head. The second one should be CFP rankings. Like, their job is to evaluate football teams, so, okay, then trust that and put your highest-ranked teams in that game, and then you don't have this whole conversation about, like, the ACC is going to get left out if Duke wins, and, Miami's their best team, and they can't play because, like, there were so many results of games that did not involve Miami, Duke, or Virginia that, like, left Miami out of that game. Like, it's too complicated. So if you're going to have a committee, if you're going to have rankings, use those to make sure that at least the best teams in your conference are playing each other. But in terms of process and like what you're basing these decisions on, I mean, I would start from scratch. I would like really try to do something different, but we know these people, they very incremental changes. So that's why I think like focusing on the weekly rankings and maybe the tiebreaker procedures for these conferences to have them just be a lot more common sense would help, but it doesn't like ultimately solve the root problems with like the process, which is, okay, well, there's no transparency, even though you say that there is because you have this chair in the weekly rankings. It's not really transparent. And, if you're not going to have that transparency, then we're just going to all kind of believe that they're just going to make up reasons for whatever teams they like. That part's not going to get fixed.
Yeah, the transparency, transparency almost made it worse somehow, which is weird. This goes like for me. There was the first year of the college football rankings back when Michigan State had a football program. They were in it, and Mississippi State and Michigan State flipped on the final day, and it did not matter in terms of the playoff. It was a 4-team playoff, and we were talking like 8 and 9 here at this point. But it changed Orange Bowl versus Cotton Bowl, and did get me stuck with a lot of vouchers the next year on American Airlines because I had booked the other way for a bunch of people on our staff. But at that point, there was no new data point for either. They had been, in a different order up until that, and that should have been the first moment we were all like, "Wait a second, what? Like, let's nip this in the bud." You got to have data points to change your mind on things. Do you think the conference championship games go away?
So I don't think they are because of what just happened. But I do want to underscore your example that you brought up was one of the reasons when Jim Delaney was pushing for playoff expansion. That was one of the things he brought up because he did say, like, you need to look beyond the top 4 or even 5 and 6, and you can see that they're doing stuff that doesn't make sense and is affecting these conferences and the bowls and matchups and money and all sorts of stuff. So, yes, we should have realized earlier that there were some issues. But, I had been saying all weekend that I thought, going into the Sunday, that like the committee was going to have to make essentially a statement about conference championship games, because if they knocked Alabama out entirely, even though they were on the bubble, even though I think for bubble teams, results like that should matter. It was a blowout loss. Again, you're not playing well heading into the postseason, all of those things. But if they knock them out of the bracket, which again, because we had weekly rankings, we're talking about it that way, like they got knocked out because they would have been in if you use the previous rankings. Again, if you don't have weekly rankings, then it's not like taking a spot away from Alabama. It's just like, okay, no one knows if they're in, and they're just not in. But that's a separate case. But I think the idea of having them drop two spots and put Miami and Notre Dame in, which is what I would have done, that was a bridge too far. I mean, this is the SEC cares about the conference championship game more than anybody else. They're the reason that like it exists in the expanded playoff world where you don't need these games. And I think that, if you dropped Alabama out of the bracket entirely, no one's ever going to want to play in that game again. And I think coaches don't particularly want to anyway. If they, like at Ole Miss, when they got eliminated to not playing it, I was like, sure, that's fine. Because, like, it doesn't do much for you that's worth, like, the risk of injury and just the wear and tear. But I think, if Alabama drops out of the bracket entirely, you're going to have coaches talking about it and saying they don't want to play in it. Are people going to rest players to avoid playing in the championship game? Like, it just completely it would force you to get rid of championship games. And I don't think they wanted to make that hard decision to actually say that and actually force that kind of change. And the easiest outcome was to keep Alabama in the bracket so that you don't have to have this like referendum on championship games. And that's the way I take it. They still could have dropped Alabama one spot and still kind of made that statement, but I don't think they were ready to be like, nope, we should get rid of these things.
I want to ask you about Pat Fitzgerald a little bit. You were at the Big Ten Network, and when he was at Northwestern for a long time, you've covered him to some degree. What was your impression of that hire by Michigan State?
I mean, I think everyone was just shocked by the speed, right? I mean, I think we'd all love if coaching searches, like from coach has been fired to the initial reports of the new hire, like are an hour. That would be great. But yeah, it was really interesting because, you'd heard Pat Fitzgerald's name just in general around the carousel. And that a lot of people had at least talked to him. He obviously wanted to get back into coaching. But for that to be the place and for it to happen so quickly was really interesting. Obviously, I think, as you've said and a lot of people on the beat have pointed out, you're really trying to harken back to like, okay, what were the best San Antonio teams like? How were they built? What was their kind of identity? How did they develop players? How did they kind of like find players that could be developed and could become like all Big Ten future NFL guys? And you're seeing, and you're like, okay, well, Pat Fitzgerald knows how to do that, at a place with more challenges than Michigan State in terms of academics, in terms of resources, caring about football. It's just going to be a really interesting start, I think, because, Fitz obviously had a rough stretch from like a football standpoint at the end of his time at Northwestern, but also like each year in this landscape, things are changing, right? Like, you had the rev share piece, and then, hey, are they going to, our collective is going to be reined in? Not really. Okay. So like, how does this work? Now we have one transfer portal window. That's different than last year where there were two. Like, everything is changing year over year. So even for Fitz being out of college for a couple of years, and obviously I know he's been around it and he's been visiting places, his son, all that, but it's still like, it's changed even dramatically from the last season he was at Northwestern. So I'm just super interested in like that piece of it, about like diving back into it and figuring out like the unique wrinkles of 2025, 2026. And also like if that model of the way that D'Antonio had those best teams and Fitz's best teams, does that work in the modern day and age? Obviously you're seeing a lot more efforts and energized donors, and that's going to be a huge piece for Michigan State moving forward. And obviously that's a huge reason that the change was made and that he was hired. But I'm just like really curious to kind of marry those things of like developmental programs, which is not negative. I think like those are great programs and they're easier to sustain because you're getting these guys for multiple years and developing them into better and better players. That in this new age, in a world where like Indiana's a powerhouse, like there's just so many differences from even just a couple of years ago. So I'm really interested to see, how it works. But obviously, Fitz so familiar with the league and just sort of like how to build teams, how to make good hires that, it's really enticing. I mean, even if Michigan State just raises the floor of the program year in and year out, I think people will be really happy. It's just you can't be a doormat in the league. You can't be one of the worst teams in the conference. And that's what I'm sure has been just incredibly frustrating for Michigan State fans.
You can read Nicole at NBCSports.com, watch her, of course, on NBC and Peacock, and listen on Sirius XM. Nicole, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Anytime.
That is Nicole Auerbach from NBC Sports. She's been around it a long time. She's been around Fitzgerald long enough to call him Fitz. So that is Fitzdog is and
you gonna call him Fitz now?
I will not.
No,
not
once. Will you slip up? God, please slip up.
I can't. It won't even be
that's
a
so
slip.
Chill.
It would be a slip if that's what you usually called him.
We
right?
have nicknames for each other. It's
like,
so chill.
Like if Fitzgerald and I were dating and I usually called him Babe, and that would be the slip, Like that's how a slip happens.
That's what Teresa and I do when we're around other couples or people. You're like, what? Like, babe. It's just natural.
It would have to be natural. That would be difficult then. Yeah, but I'm not dating Fitzgerald, so
yeah,
I will not call him
anyway.
Fitz. Anything interesting there for you?
I heard Rick Neuheisel on Dan Patrick's show yesterday, and I thought he had a great idea. And it's not often to where I hear someone's idea and I was really jealous. Like usually a stand-up comedian does a joke and you're like, oh, I wish I would have come up with that. That's genius. But Rick Neuheisel on Dan Patrick's show was mentioning how about they flip the bowl like the bowl games. You start them at the beginning of the season instead of at the end, where the weather's nice, the season's starting, everybody's excited. People have, college football playoff hopes, so you're still going to go to those bowl games.
I agree. I think we need to get away, in too many industries, and college football being one of them. It's the way we've always done things, and we take forever to get to what would make the most sense right now.
Right.
And what would make the most sense right now is a situation where, like, nobody – I don't blame Notre Dame for not wanting to go to a secondary bowl game when you thought you were in the playoff, and that's where your head is.
And I can't believe that people are – I can understand if you want to give Notre Dame shit and they're crying, that's fine.
Right.
But you really expect them to go to a Pop-Tart Bowl because of practices.
Well, and like, people – I understand that Notre Dame is this privileged place that people like to hate.
Sure.
But imagine if you're a Michigan State or Michigan fan, and this was your situation where all season you thought you were headed to the playoff, and the rankings the week before told you were headed to the playoffs, and then you were left out. You'd have zero desire to play anywhere else. You'd have a million opt-outs.
Hey, do you guys want to go to the Red Box Bowl?
Yeah, I mean,
and they'd be like, oh, the practices. We got to do that, I think.
You'd be equally pissed. It wouldn't make any sense. I agree. Like, talking about, do you have a bunch of games early in the season on neutral sites on these historic bowl places? Some of them would go away, but, you might have some places that were fun to
And I'm not saying you necessarily have to have them on a neutral site or neutral field. You can do them on campus and make them a bowl. Yeah, why not? Make them a bowl game and people can get excited about it. I don't know. I'm spitballing ideas. Neuheisel didn't say that. I'm just adding to it. No, but I'm saying guys like Neuheisel, why can't we just scrap the whole thing right now? And in the offseason, we make a whole new system so when we go into the 2026 season, that we don't sit there and we're behind already. I just can't believe that we just let it get to this point. It's like letting someone break into your house before you get a security system. It's like, what are you waiting for? You got to look ahead and make sure your system doesn't go down the drain and everybody stops watching your product.
It's a screwy situation in a lot of ways. I do think the first thing you have to fix is the calendar in college football, and that begins with we just all have to agree the season needs to end before the transfer portal and even coaching changes. Like, this is what contracts are in major sports. Like, you can't in the NFL. You don't have free agency while the playoffs are going on, right? If this is some level of professional sports, that can't be. The talent acquisition part, the coaching movement part cannot happen while the season is going on, and we just have to understand that. So if that's going to happen, then you have to adjust the calendar to fit semesters, which the semesters are the one things that aren't going anywhere. Colleges aren't changing their semesters. So you have to start earlier. You have to get the playoff going. You have to be done around January 1st for the sake of the transfer portal. Then it opens up. That is the first time, and then you have signing day. Like, none of this stuff happens before the season is over, and that should be a given. That's just what makes complete sense. We all need to agree with it, and it involves some moving parts. And
but isn't it the best case scenario that Notre Dame got screwed to accelerate the process? I feel like if nothing happened, the top 12 teams got in, there would be no argument.
Alabama would have been better left out because Alabama would have
caused a big stir for sure. But Notre Dame is a close second.
That would have killed the championship games, I think, and that would have been a good first move.
I think they're dead anyway.
Right, but are they not going to get rid of them? If you just have this dead game that's taking up time in the calendar, that's stupid. And so you have to, we have to just get the reasonable things. It has to be what we need to do is you get smart people in a room, and not the people on the selection committee. Apparently,
no.
You get smart people in a room, and with a whiteboard, what does a perfect college football season look like? What does the perfect calendar look like? What does the perfect selection look like? Okay. Now, what do we have? How do we get from there to there? And there will be little disagreements, and there will be other things. But I think if we start with zero, instead of having to change, let's build what should be, and then work on changing it to that. And that's just.
But then we need a person we trust to pick those people that we trust, which is almost impossible.
Brutal. Yeah,
because there's money involved, and people want to be put on certain boards so you can get paid to sit in a room and stare at TVs and look at your laptop. Or get some sort of benefits and stuff. Yeah, it's never ending.
I don't know if there's enough. Yeah, it's
make Rick Neuheisel the president of this whole thing. I don't know. That was a pretty good idea of saving the bowl games, because I can understand people like them at the end of the year. You travel in this god awful weather. It gives you some hope to look at the sun somewhere. But if you start them at the beginning of the season, I think that you can save some of those and build up some excitement for those games again.
But you can travel without going to a bowl game.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
we're going end of January. We're going to Florida, and
there
there's
you
no
go.
bowl game. I don't need a bowl game to go to. Absolutely. But it would give people an excuse, especially if you're a team. You know, they sell those packages that you could go travel. Maybe that's a whole thing of the past. But I think if you started out when you have hope, and everybody has hope, and going to the college football playoff at the beginning of the year, you can kind of bring some of these bowl games back.
I want to also bring up one thing she said about Fitzgerald that I find it is interesting that he's been out and so much has changed. I think in some ways that it will benefit him because while it's not the same football that he was involved in, 2 years ago, it's not the same football that any coach was involved in who was coaching a year ago. Like the thing's changing underneath their feet. And he's sort of been studying it as it's been happening and talking to people. And so I don't think the changes are going to be – I think he's a guy who in some ways, is going to have to change. We saw the end at Northwestern. We saw, the way he built the program, and I think there are tenets of that work that are important in terms of the development, and you want to retain guys. And I'm not knocking any of that. But in terms of how nimble you have to be, and he talked about this, how you want to structure a team in terms of transfers and signees and all that stuff. I think he's had time to think about it. And, as we've learned with Dan Campbell and the Lions, who's calling plays instead of thinking about the game management situation, when you don't have time to think because you're just in the shit, sometimes you don't make the best decisions.
That's a good spin zone by you because I disagree with you. I don't think it's a good thing that you have a coach that's been out of it. Okay. I understand that he's been in it and did a podcast to where it makes it sound good, but I mean, I'd rather have a coach that was in this already and coming in guns a-blazing, bringing some players with him. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's a good spin by you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel. I'm not just, I may be wrong. I could be completely wrong. I have no idea how this is going to work out. I think it has a chance to work. I think
it's got to be better than the last guy. I'm not going to say his name.
She talked about raising the floor, and I do think that's important. Now, people want a ceiling. People want a ceiling they can celebrate.
Yeah.
But they want the ceiling to be the roof, so to speak.
Like MJ.
Yeah. But I do think the floor for Michigan State now is important, whereas I didn't think that as much a while ago because the floor has just been lowered so far, and people have been living in the basement for so long. These analogies are getting ridiculous. But point being, people need to feel like 6-6 is a bad season again. That and right now people are just trying to get to a bowl game. That sort of comfort in knowing, that's what D'Antonio had. He could be frustrating as hell with his staff decisions and the offense, and and they could go 7-6 or 6-7, but that was it. They were other than 1 3-9 year, which was really the anomaly. And anomalies will happen. You knew the basement was there. They're the last team to hold Justin Herbert to 7 points, right? I mean, it's
we don't have enough time for all of that.
Anyway, it'll be interesting to watch unfold, and we'll see what his staff looks like. I think that's going to be a big part of things.
When's this OC going to be hired here?
Any second. Could happen while we're recording. We'll have to start over.
Damn it.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk some Tigers, some Pistons, maybe even pick some games. Couch in the Rube, our Wednesday afternoon show, presented by our friends at Front 43 at Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar.
Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with 1 awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at GoMuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF.
Come enjoy irresistible, award-winning, handcrafted donuts and locally roasted coffee at Groovy Donuts. Surprise your family or coworkers with special holiday designs and flavors, or put the perfect finishing touch on an event with a custom order. Birthdays, weddings, gender reveals, our friends at Groovy Donuts are your answer. Experience the Groovy Donuts difference for yourself on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Get more information or place an order at groovydonuts.com. If you're looking for a relaxed vibe, great food, and an outstanding beer selection, Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing is your place. Enjoy their famed chicken and waffle fries, fish and chips, or any of their delicious burgers or salads. Midtown Brewing Company also offers 40-plus beers on tap, including ciders and seasonal offerings and daily happy hour specials. The spacious and cozy vibe makes Midtown Brewing Company a perfect place for a beer with a friend, a work lunch, or to watch the games on its big screen TVs. If you'd rather eat at home, Midtown Brewing Company offers a terrific carryout menu and free delivery on orders of $20 or more. Visit MidtownBrewingCompany.net or stop by 402 South Washington in downtown Lansing for the Midtown Brewing Company experience.
Hey, so you should totally hit that like button and subscribe to Couch in the Rube on YouTube. Seriously though, if you don't, Santa's literally gonna skip my house this year. And Graham Couch? Yeah, he's threatening to catnap my precious kitty. So come on, help a girl out.
Couch in the Rube, our Wednesday afternoon show presented by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask and Company Kitchen and Bar near the East Lansing border on East Saginaw, just north of Frandor. You don't have to turn into Frandor, which is a hugely snarled thing. It's outside of Frandor, which is essential for the calming, enjoyable holiday experience. I think you'll love it. If you've never been there, give it a shot. Front 43 and Cask and Company. Jason.
Yeah.
Let's talk Tigers a little bit here.
Yeah. Scott Harris at the Major League Baseball winter meetings yesterday. A lot of people were up in arms and shocked by some things he said. I have the video here, and I want to start it with the opening question because Harris looks very uncomfortable on this panel answering this question. So let's play it.
Detroit want to know, are you guys going to maximize the time while you have arguably the best pitcher on the planet?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's a hard question to answer for a few reasons. One, we made the playoffs each of the last 2 years, so I don't know what maximizing the time is. We had a credible chance to win the World Series, and we put a really good team out there on the field. I think the second thing is it's a hard question to answer because I can't and I won't speculate on trades for our own players. It's just not fair to the players.
All right, that's all we need to hear then. Mm-hmm. Why is it that you can't talk about it?
I hate listening to him. Excuse me. It just made my throat
Jesus. It's like Scott Harris just jumped in.
Yeah, that's what happened. I don't know if there's anybody who's more depressing to listen to than Scott, and more frustrating to listen to than Scott Harris because you just know what's coming.
Why is that? I don't know. Is it the ownership is making him this way?
No, I think it's partly the places he comes from. I mean, he's been in organizations that did it this way, so this is how he's brought up. So remember, when you're raising your kids, this stuff sticks, okay?
But why, in Major League Baseball Network, I understand you have to do the kiss-ass interview. There's really some softballs in there, but no follow-up question. I mean, can we maybe – Scott Harris needs to do an interview with someone that's going to actually ask him a follow-up question. What is your record without Skubal, and what is it with Skubal? Enough said.
Yeah.
You need him. And the AL Central, that is absolutely awful, Scott, and you can't even make any moves. The Alex Cobb and all the terrible. We gave $15 million to Alex Cobb. Explain that. Explain that. Charlie Morton, these guys that are basically hey man, I don't really want to pitch anymore. We're going to give you $10 million. I don't blame the pitchers, these guys, these players that want to take the money. Alex Cobb even told them I don't want to play anymore. Really. All right, why don't you give it another shot? Here's $15 million to go away. I mean, it's just some of these moves, and to sit there, like I said, with the AL Central, that these teams are so bad, we should be winning this division. And are we bragging about making the playoffs? I mean, isn't it kind of a North Texas vibe when we made the playoffs? Were we really going to ever do anything in the World Series? Do you see the LA Dodgers at all, Scott? Are you scared of any other teams? I understand that, maybe in the AL there's not very many scary teams to you to where you can stand pat and and the constant talking about not blocking guys, like you mentioned, he just seems to say some of the worst things. So he must not listen to anybody around him. Maybe Scott has no friends.
He doesn't meet people where they are. We talked about that with Jonathan Smith, right? The idea of meeting a fan base where they are. And that's the hardest thing. Like, you may have some limitations of what you can do. You may have a vision that conflicts. But to not speak to that, he just doesn't have this, and he's got a voice. He doesn't have a stupid-looking face, but he's got kind of a stupid-looking voice. It's kind of a
players. It's not fair to the other teams.
Yeah, it's whiny.
The second thing is,
that's
it's not helpful. And so, but if you just would say, look, I completely understand what fans think here. I have a plan for this. I think you're going to see it work. There's, I have a plan to make sure we are in World Series contention year over year, and it involves certain pieces, and I can see it. Just trust me. I think we would if you could sell it like that.
It starts and ends with Tarek Skubal. That's what we want him to say. No, I understand, but if you make him an offer and he wants to go to the Dodgers and it's something that you can't match, we've talked about it before all season long. I get it. If you make him, you don't want to sit there and pay him $500 million. You don't want to pay a pitcher like that who pitches 7 innings, 6 innings. I get that. But to sit there and not act, he's on our team currently.
Yeah.
And we should be talking about him like he's the best player that he is on our team and the reason why we're any good. And he never does that. Everybody's tradable and all this other shit.
Well, the bigger issue for me is if you're going to have Skubal on the team this year, is Ken Rosenthal thought, and is talked about, and some of the other voices, and Cody Stavenhagen, who we've had on this show many times, I've heard talking about, like, this is a go for it year.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that the finances of it. Scott Boras sucks. We know that. If he would be better if he was not working in the profession he is. I don't know how long it is till he retires, but it can't happen soon enough for all of us. But nonetheless, it would. If you're going to have, we all get that you may lose him. If you're going to have him on the team this year, then you've got to understand that not every year is the same year over year. You're not. We're trying to put ourselves in position year after year after year. Well, the year after this year, you won't have Tarek Skubal, probably, which means it'll be different than this year. So if you have him for one more year, and in a non-salary cap league, we would all get this if there was a second apron like the NBA or there was something they were up against. In a non-salary cap league, if you're not going to spend to a certain point, you need to open your books. That's the other thing. For Chris Ilitch, he follows his dad, and I understand his dad may have spent above what the Tigers' revenues were. Who knows? But you need to explain that in better context because you are not the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Milwaukee Brewers in terms of market size. You're a top 15 city in the country. You're a bigger market. This is a fairly sizable market. It's not New York. It's not L.A., but it's not a tiny market. And it's a market that shouldn't be treated like a small market team. And again, I understand that you're talking about, not wanting to block players, and you have certain young players coming in. 100%. Again,
non-salary. But then you re-signed Gleyber Torres. I mean,
right. In a non-salary cap league too.
Blocking somebody.
You trade somebody. Somebody comes in, and all of a sudden, Kevin McGonigal is the man. Trade somebody else. It's doable. Like it's so, just a little move here. Let's win around the margins. Let's hope that works. And it's the most frustrating.
And the draft picks, we're just exhausted by it because we're talking about, again, an AL Central that should be winning every season here. And we talk about these young prospect guys that it's not a guaranteed. The first round guys are a 70% clip that you can hit on those guys. But as you go down, the percentages go down. So why not trade one or two of those guys to get guys that you can put in this lineup while you have Skubal, because you're probably not going to have him after this season.
So are we to the point yet where, like, if they don't get a number 2 starter?
What do you mean? They have Jack Flaherty.
A real number 2 starter. Somebody who's a number 2 starter and could also be borderline number 1 if you lose Skubal. If they don't go get a bat that is a little more of a fear bat, and I do think they'll work on the bullpen. I have a little more faith there in what they're doing. They already have signed Finnegan. They had a good bullpen 2 years ago. The bullpen is less of a concern, but it's those other two things. I don't think they're going to add a starter because they'll name their rotation and it's complete. And I don't know that they're going to add a bat. And at what point do Tigers fans have to speak with their wallet and their presence? Like, at a certain point, it's on all of us. It's on everybody. It's your fault. If you show up, and I know it's fun to go to the ballpark and all that stuff, but the only way to make major changes to make them feel it in the wallet, you don't, and they can be a winning team. You don't accept what they're doing. You're not going. That stadium is empty, and because they're.
Can I still watch on TV?
I mean,
I'm so bad at these kind of things. 'Cause I'm willing. Yeah, I'm on board. But it's like when April comes and the weather's nice and I'm on the deck chipping golf balls. I like to have the TV on. I like watching the Tigers. I can get behind not going to the ballpark. Absolutely. But hearing Scott Harris talk right now as we speak today, Graham, I'm like, trade Skubal then, because if you're not going to add any pieces 100%. Around him, what's the point of keeping him, having his trade value decrease? We're not with this current lineup that we have.
It's not. They're not good.
We're
enough.
not winning a World Series.
100%.
We're not beating the Dodgers, who just signed Edwin Diaz in their bullpen. We talk about fucking Finnegan. They just signed Edwin Diaz.
And I can get behind that vision too. If you say, look, the best thing to do right now is, and they get a good offer for Skubal, and the best thing now is take these guys coming in. You got some good pieces on who are not top tier stars. They're good players. But let's work on.
Yeah, but we have to
2
sit
years
through
from
their
now.
slumps.
Well, yeah,
historically bad numbers from some of the guys in the lineup, and Torque, and having to sit there and did Torque hit a home run? All right, and then we're back on board, and then Torque goes 0 for 40, and then you're just like, Jesus, what are we going to do with Torque? And it's just constant back and forth. It's like, I think we've seen enough of Torque to make a decision, right?
Years ago, I went to a Pittsburgh. I was in Pittsburgh for covering something, and wanted to go to a Pirates game because I wanted to see their ballpark.
Yeah.
And I had a friend there, and I said, "Hey, will you, come to the game with me?" And he said, "No, we can meet up before or after, but I won't go to the game." Like, they were firm on. They were so angry with ownership. He said he would not support them. He would not step foot in that stadium. Yeah. At a certain point, they can be good, but if you're just enabling it, you're an enabler. If you are stepping foot in that stadium and with this stuff, and I understand it's better than it was. But what's amazing to me is in a city that's had so much losing in its professional sports in the last half decade plus, and went through Monty Williams with the Pistons and just some real frustrating. I don't think there's been anybody more frustrating than Scott Harris and Chris Ilitch and the Tigers in this era where they made the playoffs twice, once in exhilarating fashion. They've won a couple series. Like, it's amazing. They've done tangible things that are important that you really want, and yet to me they are the most frustrating franchise that exists in Detroit, and that should not be the case. They are not meeting people where they are, and that is part of the job. And again, if he wins a World Series, all apologies, but if he doesn't, he will not be viewed as a success. You cannot, and that's part of it. The previous era of Detroit Tigers baseball did not win a World Series. They got close. People want that. They've seen a decade of being in playoff contention, being in the playoffs, occasionally even being in the best team of the baseball and not having it work out. They know what that looks like. But in a non-salary cap sport, you got to make better moves than this. You got to do more than there is no blocking. If you sign a player and he blocks somebody who was becoming great, then you ship that guy out. Like, it's a non-salary cap sport. If you can't afford it, don't be in it.
You know what I'd ask Chris Ilitch? I'd ask him one question. What would your dad think right now if your dad was alive?
He'd be ashamed of you. No, I'm kidding. Don't say that. I apologize. Fix that in post.
No, it's possibly true. If I was Mike Ilitch and what I did at the end of my life to try to get us a World Series championship, and to watch my son, who's just sitting around and letting Scott Harris go on Major League Baseball Network and fucking hemming and hawing and going, we're blockers and no one's untradeable. And it's just like, I think that Mike Ilitch, I think I can answer it. He would be disappointed. I don't know if he'd disown his son, but I think he would be definitely disappointed where this franchise stands right now. You got to make some moves when you get a Tarek Skubal. You talk about not blocking guys, but like when we get these guys and they end up turning into Tarek Skubal, and then they're just going to constantly keep getting pushed to the wayside and going to the Dodgers and going to the teams that want to afford them. It's just ridiculous. I don't get it.
I'm with you.
Despise it.
All right, let's talk about another Detroit team that's concerning me in a different way.
Let's do it.
The Pistons, unlike the Tigers, I would like to stand pat. Right?
And by the way, this is all speculation, rumor mill stuff, 100%. So you haven't heard anything from J.B. Bickerstaff or Trajan Langdon or anything. So.
I think they might. What we have heard from Bickerstaff in interviews is that they talked about this stuff over the summer, and they thought that this team earned the right to see how far they could take it a little bit, to see what the chemistry could bring them. I mean, they made some changes. Obviously, Malik Beasley, that whole situation happened. You bring in Duncan Robinson. They made some changes with the supporting cast, and they're getting Jaden Ivey back. But they're the best team. It's not like they're 14-10 right now. Right now, their record is the best in the NBA now, or not in the NBA, in the Eastern Conference. What is clear though is it's not a perfect team. We know that they don't have enough secondary creators beyond Cade.
Need
right?
a little bit more shooting. I mean, Duncan Robinson's great, but you need another guy.
So I'm not saying this is the finished product and the finished roster, and I'm not saying you wouldn't listen to something on Ivy, and I'm not saying you wouldn't throw in a draft pick, which if you're the Pistons, you're not going to be drafting high for a long time anyway. So somebody wants one of your first-round picks, big whoop. That's not a big deal anymore. Like, this is a great draft. If they were, again, in the bottom 5, that'd be a totally different conversation. But you do want to be careful about chemistry and other things, like this whole Anthony Davis conversation. Who wants a 32-year-old big man who's often injured that's going to be part of your, like, the window for the Pistons, I view as, like, not even in yet, and you're hoping to be there for, like, a 5-year span starting a year from now. And yet, and what does Anthony Davis contribute toward that when you've got Jalen Duren? Like, I see those conversations about him, and unless there's some chess move that I'm missing here.
To give up that much, too, to get a guy, and you say injury prone. I mean, this guy has made a joke out of it. I mean, right? He's kind of a guy that you kind of, anytime he gets a hangnail. I mean, the guy's missed 244 regular season games in 13-year career.
And what I don't want them to become is Scott Harris. I don't want Trajan Langdon to become Scott Harris, where the goal is to get to the finals. Because the finals, while that would be amazing, and I would love it, and I think this year's team has an outside chance to do that. That would be a lot of fun. This year's team is not going to beat, I don't believe, can beat Oklahoma City, who's lost one game all year, or Denver even. Denver is probably, and maybe Houston, I would say in the West, I don't know if there's anybody in the East that has a chance to beat Oklahoma City. So if you don't have a chance to win a championship, barring an injury to Oklahoma City, like, be careful how much you go for it until like, that needs to be what you're looking at. How do you build a roster that can actually contend with that? And if you don't, if Anthony Davis brought you there, then I would be like, okay, do it. But that's not what he does. I don't really get it. And again, if there might be some chess moves, I do have some trust in Trajan Langdon.
But what about Lauri Markkanen?
See, Markkanen.
Lauri Markkanen.
I don't know what he.
I mean, the guy scores 30 points a game, but I mean, I'm just talking about having the trade propositions. Like, you see the trade value machine, whatever, and it's like all of these draft picks and all these guys, and then you get Lauri Markkanen. It's like, okay, or then all these draft picks, blah blah blah, Jaden Ivey, and then you get Anthony Davis, who's often injured. Like, I just don't want to start doing those kind of trades. Like you mentioned, building pieces, like adding pieces here and there, because this team kind of reminds me of like the 04 Pistons kind of winning that way, right? The kind of bad boy stuff, Isaiah Stewart. And I just don't know if you have to do a trade like that right now when things are going so well. Why would you want to do that?
Well, and one thing to remember about the 04 Pistons is nobody thought they had any sort of shot even to beat the Lakers. And then they wound up being what's called the 5-game sweep.
God,
sometimes you don't know what's in front of you until all of a sudden you see it, right? And it happens in the NFL. Like, you look at this year's NFL and you hope the Lions are still going to make the playoffs. But the way we thought about, like, the Ravens and the Chiefs, teams that previously were just givens to be in the playoffs, it takes a minute to admit that they're not really good right now. And then you see a team like the Patriots and the Broncos, but that are all of a sudden like 10-2. And it takes a minute to adjust your head around what was a year ago and what's been for a little bit. And so sometimes you can be too cautious, realizing somebody is actually a contender. I still think the Pistons are a little short. And I'm not against, like, a trade that makes sense for what fits this roster if you don't give up Cade, Asar, or Jalen Duren. If they want to talk about Markkanen and anything else that's on the table there, I can deal with those conversations because I think he fits what they sort of need, right? And Tobias Harris would be part of that as an expiring deal. Picks. I don't know. Danny Ainge does not make dumb trades, though. It always would make me nervous to trade with him. I
would never trade with that guy.
So I don't really know where to go with that. Anything else you want to get into on the Pistons or anything else before we wrap here?
I think we're good, man.
All right, man. This has been good. We did not have Harry today. We have not heard from Harry. So we will we'll maybe try on Friday. That's hard to do with the Groovy Donut Twitter questions. We'll get into all that. We'll do the games we're betting on Friday as well. Appreciate Nicole Auerbach coming on, talking playoffs, and Pat Fitzgerald with us. And hope you're staying safe and warm out there. It is I don't know. I don't even know what to say about what I'm watching come down right now. It's does not look good.
I can still see the street, so it's not too bad.
Snowflakes over sleet, which is going to become ice. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. We appreciate Front 43 and Cask & Company. Go to caskandcompany.com. Make a reservation today. One of the great reservation systems around. And again, the new private room at Front 43 and Cask & Company if you want a private party there. We'll be back Friday and dig into your groovy donut Twitter questions. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roob.